Evergreen content is anything you create that can live on beyond a single use. So the opposite of evergreen content is trending content. Now here's an example of the difference. Your catalog photography is evergreen because you can use it for the life of your product or at least for the life of your package design. But trending content is adding that package photo to a chair next to an image of Bernie Sanders bundled up in those epic mittens. Of course, you want to use trends when they are appropriate for your brand, but you shouldn't spend too much time or money on fleeting messages. When planning your budget and deciding how to invest in your marketing assets, be sure to consider the life of the content. You want to make sure you maximize your return on the evergreen components of your photo and video spend, any paid content that you might hire for, and your website copy. Your website is a pretty expensive investment, and so you want to make sure you get the most out of that. But today, I'm going to talk about that photography or video investment, because photography is the very first place a packaged food brand knows it needs to spend money. But I always hear this from my clients, especially from emerging brands. Photo shoots are really expensive. You know you need photos, but they also take a big bite out of your budget. So today I'm going to explore 3 kinds of photography investments, and I'll share how you can make the most of your spend on catalog photography, hiring a professional photographer, and photos from food bloggers. Catalog photography. That's probably the first thing you think about getting. The cost range for that is going to run you between $50 and $150 an image. Now, you may be using a local photographer, but there are budget services online like Suna, Studio Nula, Trend.io, places where you ship your photos and then you choose from a packaged set of imagery for your brand. And so, what do you expect for that $50 to $150 per image spend? Well, here's what you get. You're going to get standardized imagery, standardized formats. You're going to get limited creative direction, especially with those packaged online companies. You're going to get limited environments or props. And then hopefully you'll get background removal and images on white sweeps. Now, that standardized format and standardized imagery, that is really important for e-commerce because what you want is for all of your packages to be consistently lined up and in the same proportion to each other. So when someone is scrolling through your site, they're getting a way to compare one product to the next and things aren't jumping all over the place. The other thing you want to do is make sure you are hiring for professional catalog photography, because the last thing you want to do is have dark, dim, and dingy imagery on your site, because that's a real turnoff for sales. Now, when you hire those online platforms, there's a lot of things that you also won't get. And at that $50 to $150 price, you won't get full creative control. You're not going to get unlimited revisions, and you're not going to get unlimited storage of your photos. You're not going to get much file management either, and you're definitely not going to get cooking. So catalog photography is pretty standardized, and at $50 to $150 an image, it's probably one of the lower price points for photography that you're going to spend. So when you're looking at that, one thing you want to do to maximize this opportunity is to opt in for any add-ons like GIFs, or video. Any motion that you can add on to that, you want to go ahead and invest in that extra spend because you've already spent for shipping it. You've already spent the time sort of planning your photo shoot. You've done all these togethers, and usually you can add on a GIF or a video snippet for not much more, like a $10, $20 or something like that. And so here's a big tip before you start your catalog photography project, and that is to write down your photo needs first, and then check your budget before signing up and getting a quote, because I want you to also get a quote for someone local too. You may have a big enough need to hire somebody nearby for half a day, and there are people who could do catalog photography for maybe $600 for a half day that would be local to you. And as long as they're able to standardize their photography and give you that white sweep and some background removal, you may find that it's a break-even cost. So that's the first thing. Make sure you know your entire list of needs before you go to those online services. Now, online services are great if you're doing onesie-twosies because that's a really affordable way to get decent and quality e-commerce catalog photography. The next kind of photography I want to talk about is hiring that professional food photographer. So when I talked about hiring somebody local for $600 for a half day, that's typically a small business photographer who's sort of being a jack of all trades. One of the trade-offs with them is that you are going to have to pay attention to the tools they are using when they go to shoot your photography. And an important one is like locking down that camera. That's why if you're not experienced at hiring photography, I would say go to one of those online e-commerce services first to get your product photography. But a professional food photographer is someone who makes their entire career out of shooting food, and they're a person who's going to devote a day or half a day for you. And this used to be the only way to get your photography, but now there are people who are very specialized in this niche. Now, the costs are going to range at the very low end, maybe $2,000, and all the way up to $5,000 to $7,000 a day. And a minimum charge is half a day. What you get for that spend is you're going to get a photographer, all of their lighting and equipment, possibly a stylist or an assistant who's working with them. You're going to get what I consider full creative direction and that you're going to express to them your needs and what you're trying to do. But you will be hiring a photographer who has a particular style that they work in. So you want to make sure you're not asking for direction that they may not be comfortable providing. But you will be able to say, I want this, and that shot in this way, which is a lot more creative control than when you're hiring those budget online services. You also will get some follow-up support. There'll be image touch-up and image approval. And you can expect to get 10 to 20 photos out of that day's shoot. And that ends up being about $200 to $500 per image, depending on where that falls within the quoted price and the services that they're providing. You should also make sure that you get unlimited use rights. There are still some photographers who are trying to track the life of a photo, but for a small brand and an investment that steep, you want to make sure that you aren't responsible for saying, oh, here is the second anniversary of this photo and I need to stop using it. Now, there's some things that you won't get for that big spend, and one of them is unlimited revisions and unlimited storage of your photos. You're hiring them for their service for a day, and you need to get everything back and manage it yourself. And so you won't get file management. You also won't get location rental fees unless it's specified in the contract. So it really depends if you're going to shoot on a particular location or if you're going to meet them somewhere. There also might be travel fees if they have to move. You won't get props and dishes unless it's specified in the contract. And if they're included in the contract, generally expect that they're going to be pulling from a library of props that they have built up over the years. So make sure that you understand what the styling is going to be like before you show up for the shoot date. You also won't get cooking unless it's specified in the contract. So a lot of professional food photographers work with a stylist or someone who actually maybe has a home economics degree where they are a professional recipe creator or someone who's really a pro in the kitchen. If you are doing the cooking or the styling, plan to cook multiple options so you can shoot the most attractive version. There are a whole bunch of other tricks about making your food look as luscious as possible that a food stylist would be really helpful for.